the Saratoga High School district. You probably heard about the Altiplano story. And I would like to know that how you teenagers between each other to discuss about it, and what did you learn from this lesson? Or school do anything to talk to you guys, and then what you learned from this case?
Okay. So for me personally, Leland, I don't think any of the administrators brought it up. We haven't had anything about that, but because I'm on the internet a lot, I follow a couple people who post a lot of this stuff, and they post a lot of information. So I've done my own research. I read into it, and for me, it's just it is a really horrible case of cyberbullying. It is a horrible case of what happens when you go out and do drugs and alcohol at a party. But for me personally, I feel like people didn't stand up for her because there were a lot of stuff that happened online that really should not have happened. Like. I honestly feel like whoever, this is my personal opinion, that whoever was part of that and kept bullying her was just like horrible people, because they should stand up for people who are in trouble. Like when we talk about bullying, it's always important to stand up to bullies, and for a lot of them, these were on the internet, and I feel like it was really hard for her to escape it. And if I were her friend, or even if I were her acquaintance, I would have talked to her about it. But unfortunately, I did not know her. I wasn't able to do anything, which kind of makes me kind of feel really sad about it, because she lived probably about like 5, 10 miles, 15 miles away, and that makes me feel really sort of angry and upset about it.
Unlike in the next case where the administration didn't really talk about it, at least for us, we had at least some student involvement with this case. I remember there was one person who created an event for us all to wear her favorite colors. But at the end, of course, that event was badly organized and no one really did it. But at least that garnered a lot of attention for that event. And then I think with this type of event, it really brings out the inner personality of the person, how they react to the event. There was a type of conflict and split between the opinions of how people react to the event. There's people that show the utmost empathy. They're like, oh, I'll wear her favorite color, I'll wear it all over my body, and I wish I could have talked to her, and I could have known her, and I bet she was a good person. And then there was the type of people who were like, well, all of you are hypocrites. You should have been there for her when she was alive. So why would you take the time to bother for her when she's dead? So this type of event definitely created two very polarized opinions of this type of situation.
Also, I want to say something. So Audrey Platt actually committed suicide 8 days after the incident when she got raped. And what I think is really scary is that between the 8 days between those days, her parents had no idea what was going on. And because of this, her parents could have done something to really help her prevent from committing suicide. And that's why I feel like it's really, really important to communicate with your child. Because if their parents, for those 8 days, they didn't know anything that was going on. If they had the opportunity to help and talk to her, I'm pretty sure, more likely that, she would have gotten the help she needed, and, the trouble would have been solved a lot better than, committing suicide. So I just feel like this message is to be sent out to parents to really look after your child. There's a lot of really bad things going on in this generation, just like everything we said, like partying, or rape and sexual abuse, stuff like that. A lot of teens do get hurt, physically, emotionally, and it's really important for parents to be there for your children, especially if, those parents suddenly just don't know what was going on, they didn't help her. I think it's really important to spend enough time with your children to know what is going on. If they're sad, if they're happy, if they're depressed, you really want to take charge and be the parents that can help prevent situations like that.
I think that the parents already learned from that, but I want to ask you, how about you think about the youth and the kid? What do you think about that? Not for parents.
The situation?
Yeah, about that case. So, and the teenager already learned something from that case? you're talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's like a big deal going on. I mean, as a teenager, like, I can see why that's really hard, but I believe like there are better ways to deal with it. I mean, I don't know. Like, from what I learned and what I seen is, like, Arjupot, you know, I feel like she didn't want to tell like her parents what happened because she probably thought a little bit was her fault for drinking, for doing the drugs. So she didn't want to really, you know, she didn't forgive herself for the things she did. I don't know, I think I learned a lesson, or like, I see something in this where, you know, teens should really, even if they make a mistake, if something bad happens, like they really need to not keep it in themselves, they have to like, tell someone.
So in terms of communication, what I heard earlier is that when teens come home, they could be emotional and things like that. We need to give them room and privacy. So I found that like teenagers, they could be like most of the time go to their room and do homework and things like that. How do you suggest that parent can do in a daily routine that kind of spot problem, right? She probably during that 8 days, she's moody and hiding in her room, but that may not be any different from the, you know, any days before. So my question to you all is that how do you would like parents to really express like way, like we care about you on a daily basis and try to be, you know, spot problems earlier on?
Well, something my parents sometimes do is like to show that they care for me is like they cut through for me and just give me whenever I'm working hard on like, so for example, I'm sitting in front of the computer, typing up, doing some AP tests on the computer, maybe writing an essay. My parents will come over and just like give me some tea, like, hey, give me some tea. I know you're working hard, just drink a little, relax a bit. Maybe just give me some fruit and maybe, you know, give me some sugar and you can have that essay. And actually, I personally feel like a good time to like talk to your talk to your kids about like a problem is perhaps like dinner time. Because when you sit down and eat, you kind of relax a lot more. That's why people make business deals over dinner. So you can like talk to people like your child over dinner and just maybe, you know, more relax, ask them about how's life.
I also read like a statistic that families who eat dinner together are more likely to, you know, be a stronger family. So always, you know, try and make time to have dinner with them. Sometimes, like, if I'm sad, my mom takes me to, like, my favorite restaurant. And then just, you know, you can spend that good time. And, you know, it's not easy for teens to open up to parents, even if they are close. But over time, I feel like if you do spend enough time with them, you know, they will eventually say something.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
Oh.
Along the same line, I just want to hear that, you know, during your family life, what make you like every day is like, you know, just make me feel good. My parents care about me and I feel comfortable approach them. You know, some of the little things, I think that's what matter.
Actually, one of the things I feel is that it depends on time. My daughter here, Tanya is, she often feels very moody and not happy in the afternoon because of lack of sleep the previous night. At that time, you cannot approach her. Just leave her alone. And well, the closer you get to the midnight, the more open she is. She just cannot stop talking about anything she wants to share with you. So yeah, to try to appreciate how your child is and try to find good ways of communication. Yeah.
I was gonna say that story.
What I was going to say is basically, well, like James said, my mom does the fruit thing too. Like my dad usually goes, my parents usually just say, hey, you know what, you want an apple? It's like, sure. And then like, I'll bring an apple into my room. And a lot of the times, well, I see this with my brother more than my mom, but you know, hey, my brother will ask like, oh, Mom, how was your day today? And like she'll talk about it, and she'll open up, and you know, like at first she's like, you know, it's alright. And then my brother will be like, oh, what'd you do? And then, so like at first she was like, my mom seems like really annoyed by it, and she's like, oh, I had a bad day, I don't want to talk about it. And then she just starts talking about it like later on because my brother likes to talk, and you know, just likes to press on. So, so that is one thing, and you know, my mom is starting to do that a little bit more, and it does, you know, she asked me, oh, how was my day, what did we do at school? And so it did feel a little bit more, you know, feel like it was a little bit more close-knit because when I was like in middle school, my mom didn't really do that. So yeah, that's one thing that I feel really happy about when my mom talks to me about what happens at school.
Different topic. Talking about the rules, about internet usage, like Facebook, games, online games. So, do you think the parents should set the rules for the kids to have the access to the internet? And what is your real life experience?
Okay. So for that, I feel like you have to have a mutual agreement. I mean, you can't. Like for me, what my dad did at first was he got this thing on Windows Vista, like where you could like actually block this, like you can set like parental controls. But a lot of the times that stuff blocks like some things that like are bad. Like I searched up black hole once to like, get like for a science project, and it blocked the Google search. So like sometimes it can be really inhibiting. But for me, what I had to do was basically I talked to we both had an agreement. This is also because I played a lot of video games as well. That we had an agreement to say basically, hey, you know, I only can play on this day, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I only can play for 2 hours each day. So that's one of the things that I had to agree upon because I started to realize, hey, you know what, video games probably aren't worth it that much. And today I don't really play that many video games. It's because I had a mutual agreement, and I feel like that mutual agreement really helped me come to terms with the internet and basically video games. But in my opinion, I think the internet is a little bit harder to control because so many things are on the internet now. Like classes will be on the internet, class material will be on the internet, and information will be on the internet. So it's really hard to find that balance for internet. So my dad took that parental control off because I was like, oh hey, I tried to look up a picture for black hole and it didn't let me do anything. So that's why internet is a little bit harder in my opinion.
Yeah, my son is 7th grade. I don't have experience in the middle school, high school stage. So I talked to him, and it seems that he told me that there's like 3 different groups in each middle school. One group he called is like popular. I don't know what his definition of popular. Another group is called they label them as nerds. Is that those kids are like get a very high performance academics. Another group is like just normal group. So he told me he usually don't go play with the nerds. He always would play with a popular group. So one time there's a school event. The writer was invited to give a speech. Okay, to that seminar. And after that, he told me, "Man, did you see that? All the kids come on nerds today." So I don't. Maybe you can help me to understand what the so-called popular group of kids do, and why they like jealous to the nerds group. Because in my point of view, the student with the best performance should be popular at school, but it seems that's not the case. Maybe you can share your opinion.
Personally, I go to school. I've been in schools that are like really competitive. Everyone in there is probably really smart. Like for example, I know this guy. He won this mock competition. He got shake hands with Obama, all that jazz, and pretty much like he is actually considered like probably more popular kids in my case. So like the more smart kids in my school tends to be like more popular and more well-known kids.
What school does your son go to? Oh, sorry. What school does your son go to?
I just want to understand what the so-called popular kids do. Since they're not as good academic performance, right?
Yeah.
Popular
in middle school is like, oh, I'm so cool, I'm not doing my homework.
I think, okay, like for me, when I went to elementary school and middle school, I was like, oh my gosh, like I was in middle school, like, and a lot of TV shows, they make high school look like the popular. If you ever watch American TV shows, they make high school, like the popular kids are the kids who don't do well in school. The nerds are the ones who do well in school. So then when I went to middle school, it was exactly like what you're saying. Popular kids didn't perform well, nerds performed really well, but then you wanted to be with the popular kids, you know, just because they're cool. But okay, I think when you go to high school, everything changes. It's not the same. High school, at least for my high school, the popular kids are the ones who do the best. Like the ones on homecoming court, homecoming king, queen, all of them are the, top kids who got into really good schools like Berkeley, UCLA, Stanford. As you get to high school, that's when grades matter a lot. So middle school, people they don't really want to do all that stuff, so then they think they're cool for not doing it. When you get to high school, you get a reality check, like, okay, I have to go to college, I have to do well in school. So, popularity doesn't matter as much in high school anymore. I don't know, that's just my school, I don't know about other schools. And then in my school, the most well-known and respectable kids are the ones who do the best and do the most for the schools. So I think your child is just going through a phase right now. I think by the time they get to maybe sophomore year, it's going to change. They're not going to really think about popularity as much anymore.
It's also because of the number of kids at school, because in middle school, there's actually not that many people, so it seems really important to be popular. And in high school, there are so many more people that are like you that you don't even care anymore.
So what is the Leland popular? For you?
Well, I think in my opinion, our school has, this is how we're kind of racist actually. There's, for us, there's always well, at least for me, I hang out with a lot of, Asian people, and the popular guys are the guys who do really well in speech and debate, which is kind of weird. And then you also have the other half of the school that are okay, so we like the guys who are the most athletic, and also they're really good looking, which is always unfortunate. They're the best athletes and they're the best looking, so those are the guys who are really popular. But at Leland, it's, in my opinion, at least it's, a lot of the people actually still like the people who are the athletes. So mainly it's the people who are the athletes. It's mainly because they're actually really smart. When you actually talk to them, they're actually really smart, and they're really athletic, and they're really cool. They're not the typical jocks where you see I'm a high school football star and I don't care. I get straight C's and blah blah blah. These people are they are raised to be academic. They are raised to be academic stars and to be athletic stars. So those people are really popular. And they are cool. I'm not gonna lie. They are pretty cool. They do things that are pretty extraordinary. There's this one person who, he's not athletic, but he was Colin Aiken, if you guys know him. He's just extremely smart. He finished all the courses of math at Leland, and now he's taking some kind of I don't know, it's bivariate calculus, and it's just, he's really smart, and he's really popular too, because he's done something that a lot of people aren't able to. So it's what Emily said, it's a lot different from what middle school is. Middle school is oh yeah, I'm a skateboarder, I eat gummy bears because I have money. And, so it's a lot different than high school.
Do you have any more questions? Okay. So during your time, should I encourage my daughter to retire?
You should.
It's still in May, so it's at the bottom. It's in the middle of May, so not yet.
Should I encourage her?
Probably in about 2 weeks. 2 weeks or so. 2 weeks before. I guarantee you.
So I still had a chance?
I'm pretty sure she still has a chance. There's only been 10 people that have been asked.
So it's good to do that, huh?
Hey, girl power. Alright. I mean, I've seen it. Last year happened a couple times. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I personally think it's fine.
Thank you.
Just gonna have a fun time.
Yeah, I have a question. One is about your privacy. When you put things on the internet, online, how do you keep its privacy? It's almost open to everybody.
Well,
That's the one. Yeah.
Anonymous blogs, you don't post your name, or you just post the fake name George Clooney.
there's like a lot of, now recently because there's a lot of people who've been, hounding Facebook, companies like Facebook and Twitter to, make things private. There are features that, that will make things private, like, you can say, these, like, people who, only my friends can see this, and only, only people who follow me who have to be confirmed by email or something. I know it doesn't work all the time, but yeah, it's still there. But I mean, yeah, I think teens have to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how you function.
Right. So the thing is, like, for right. So for teens, teens, like, I don't really post that much at all because I know that a lot of stuff isn't private.
Yeah, and also for the teenager, for the high school, I don't know because you just mentioned about your happiness and most important things. But teenagers, I don't know, their happiness will be for how about I do the drugs, also make me happy, and also I do just all the video games, or I make me happy. Otherwise, I do not feel to interfere with that's the one thing. The other thing is, do you have some other set your goals? What are you going to do? I mean, do you thought about that? I don't know if from the parents' point of view, I don't know. Do you think about what kind of things I'm going to do after my high school or college? Do you really set the goal or how to get there? It's kind of, do you give the thought about that?
Yeah, most kids right now probably don't even know what the major is going to be in college, so this isn't really that much of a problem for teens. Like, teens, most of the time, we go to high school so we can figure out what college we want to go to, we get interested in what things we get interested in. We join clubs, figure out some things on our own, and maybe set some goals from high school, like what kind of college we want to go to and what kind of major we want to look at. But actually at college, then we actually start looking at like what we want to probably do. Then we probably start setting goals, like maybe we want to be like an astronaut or something, or maybe we just want to be a writer.
Also, like my brother, when he was in high school, he liked to play a lot of video games. He would play like hours. And he said, he would spend so much money on video games because that's what made him happy. I think that's just kind of a childish phase because, now he goes to UC Berkeley studying physics. He just has so many goals, because, he's almost 20 years old. We're still, teenagers, they just want to play video games, want to lay back. By the time they go to college or upperclassmen in high school, they start realizing, that's not the meaning of life. That's not what makes me happy. And video games, parties, that's not what makes me happy. It's about being successful. So when you go to college, it's a lot different because, my brother, he personally blocks Facebook and blocks all those things to help him not procrastinate. So by the time, it depends on the kid, but they learn to grow up and get out of that phase where they think it's happiness, but it's not.
In terms of the whole using these types of things to get happiness from it, at least from what I see, and I know some people that do this, it's when they have a lot of school trouble, family trouble, or there's too much pressure on them, they tend to go towards those things in order to, as a kind of release. Like, I remember there was this one person in my biology class, and he when I met him, he recently got a drink from us. He was like a weekend, and then I asked him, why did you start drinking? And then he's like, oh, I've been having trouble with my friends, not a lot of them like me anymore. So he turned to drinking as an outlet for that frustration. So if your teen becomes emotional and becomes constantly sad or something, that might lead to them going towards drugs or alcohol or addiction to video games in order to escape it. So if they become happy or if you can comfort them in some way, then they might not turn towards those things. And as for choosing your career for the future, most people I know are undeclared. Some people are really into their aspiration, but it's kind of the point that what your aspiration is now is not necessarily what your aspiration is going to be 20 years from now, 40 years from now. So it seems not to matter as much. And when you apply for college, most people try to avoid applying for undeclared and being discriminated by applying with a fake or not as youth major in order to make it easier for them to get to college, and then they can choose what they really want to do. So and then they have their first beginning years of college to decide what major they want to pursue.
Okay, so I think we have time. If you have any more questions, you can come up after to ask. So we'd like to thank Leland Bridge for having us come, and thanks to you guys for showing up and listening. You guys are doing a great job.
She always tries to like
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
So you should let us fail now in middle school. Well, you should just give up.
Personally, like middle school, like learns the best part is like they don't take it as seriously. And from my perspective, I try to learn my kids, but then I feel now that I'm doing this because everyone around me, they were talking about how much fun they had at like street scenes, and I'm like, wow, how can you guys do that? Because